rained again last night, which is a very good thing for California in general. Apparently, to replenish our water stocks, according to NASA, it's going to take something like 11 trillion gallons of water. Don't know. They're just being overly cautious with that estimate, but that's a lot of water. That's a whole lot of water. I don't really have any way of putting that into perspective. Let's see here. So we've been doing the whole thematic route with technology and more specifically computer related items for these little video blogs, and I've been liking it. It's given me a chance to just talk about it. Yesterday we talked about off-the-shelf computers to help break down what a computer is. And you can really buy those just about anywhere. Office Depot, Staples, like I said, Walmart. And they're all pretty much the same. They're not going to be blowing your socks off with performance and speed, but they do give you a great start on just getting a computer. Laptops are a whole lot less customizable. You can update the processor, you can update the RAM, you can update the hard drive, and that's it. Whereas a desktop computer, you can upgrade everything in it. If it'll fit, it'll fit. Laptops are specialty items, kind of like a cell phone. You can't just grab a cell phone, rip out the CPU or the RAM that's in it, and then slap a bigger, better one in it. It just doesn't work that way yet. But a desktop PC, it will let you completely upgrade everything. You can go, if you're willing to do the work, you can go from an Intel-based store-bought computer, rip out the internals, and as long as some of the parts are compatible, all you have to do is replace the motherboard and the processor if you want to go to AMD, and then just put everything else back in. It's pretty simple. And vice versa, you buy an AMD store pre-built, like an E-Machine or an HP or a Dell from a store, or even from the manufacturers themselves, and you want to go to Intel, well, just pull everything out, replace it with an Intel motherboard, an Intel processor, and you're good to go. I watched a video from Linus Tech Tips today that compared the Intel Pentium G3258. It's the 20th anniversary edition. I think it's 20th anniversary. But it's the anniversary edition. It's a dual-core processor. No hyper-threading, so it only has 2 threads total. Unlike processors that have hyper-threading from Intel, where they'll have 2 cores, but with hyper-threading, they put 2 threads per core. Basically, the processor on a logical level. But that's really complicated to explain without pictures and graphs and things that I don't have at my disposal in the car. And they compared it against the $1,100 processor from Intel, the i7-5960X, which is an 8-core processor that is just a beast. It really is. It does have hyper-threading, so it can do a lot more multitasking than the little Intel Pentium G3258. It's kind of sad comparing those two. But the Pentium only costs $70. And like I said, the 5960X costs $1,100. So that's a lot of money to be dropping into a computer, and that's not even taking the cost of the motherboard into account, or the RAM. Those three things you absolutely have to buy whenever you buy that. Whenever you buy that processor, you have to buy DDR4 RAM. You can't use DDR3, and you have to buy a special motherboard. It's the X99, and those are about the same price as most other motherboards. But the RAM, oh my lord, expensive, almost twice as much as DDR3. Some cases it runs the same price, but most of the time it runs 1.5 to 2 times the cost. Anyway, they did gaming benchmarks on it, and for gaming, it's a very capable processor. However, it will have some issues with some games. Mostly games that really love multiple threads, and it just all comes back down to not properly utilizing what is already there. If it's a dual core, doesn't mean it's not good. If they can actually properly utilize what is there. But I'm not a programmer. I'm just a bit of a hardware nut. But I do want to see how well it does. A co-worker of mine has the Anniversary Edition Pentium, and he is willing to sell it to me for $70. And as soon as I nail down which motherboard I would like to put it in, I am going to move forward with buying it. And I'll repurpose some of the parts that I already have to turn it into a light gaming machine and home theater computer, because it will be able to do that extremely well, or it should anyway, get better, given how everybody has been raving about it. I want to see how it does with my own 2 eyes. Doing a swap for processor, motherboard, or both is not hard. The RAM that comes with it will almost 100% be compatible with what you want to swap out to. Unless you're wanting to upgrade to the i7 Extreme series, and then you're going to have to buy new RAM for that. But the 2 ways to get surefire performance gains on your pre-built store-bought computer. You just went into Staples or Office Depot, Best Buy, wherever, and bought a computer. the two ways that will guarantee a performance boost is buy an SSD, a solid state drive, and use it as your boot drive, or buy a video card. Both of those things will give you a performance boost. The SSD will lower your boot times into starting up the computer and opening certain applications. The video card will allow you to watch videos and play games more smoothly. Those are the absolute best ways to boost your performance and not really cost a whole lot. Buying a new processor is $250 to $300 depending on who you get. If it's not compatible with what you have in that store-bought computer, then you have to buy a motherboard. And those aren't exactly affordable either. So you really have to, if you're buying a store-bought computer, you're doing it on a budget. So spend $60 to $70 on an SSD, or spend $60 to $70 on a video card, or buy them both and see a noticeable gain in your computer's performance. Now, installing those, super easy. Like I said yesterday, if you go and buy a mainstream graphics card that requires additional power input, you really need to take a look at your power supply. You really should take a look at your power supply before you go to buy a graphics card. What you want to look for is a 6-pin connector, or 2 4-pin Molex connectors, because the graphics card you buy will most likely come with a 4-pin to 6-pin adapter, which is fine. Which is fine, right? But the bigger issue is store-bought computers are built with a power supply that provides the exact amount of power for that system with a little bit of headroom, because a lot of processors now have automatic overclocking features, and so whenever a processor gets overclocked, it requires a little bit more power. To make sure your power supply is going to be compatible with that video card, you want to make sure you have the proper amount of power, total power, and hopefully they didn't jip you too bad and you got at least a 450 watt power supply, which is fine for an R7 260X, or maybe even an R9 270X. Not a whole lot more than that, but hopefully with that. I spilled some of my water. Actually, it's mineral water, so it fizzed up and all over the place. Let's see. So hopefully you got a 450 watt power supply, and you'll see on the side of your power supply total power. It'll be hopefully 450 W's, preferably more. But if it's less than that, you're going to have to buy a power supply. If you are looking to buy a video card that requires additional power. If it's less than that, get an R7 250 or an R5 240, I think it is, or a GT7 NVIDIA GTX 750. Yeah, GTX 750. They're great for 720p video game resolutions, but falter at 1080p. So yeah, I'm a little bitter over that. The 650 Ti boost is actually a very good option for you. It only requires 450 watts, and I think it requires only a single 6-pin connector. But it's actually a really decent card. But I'd stick to something a little bit more manageable, like the R7 250. It's not going to blow any games away, but it's going to give you noticeable performance over your lackluster integrated graphics that you already have. So until tomorrow, I will see you guys later.